Welcome to All Business No Bull. I'm very excited today. Why? Because our special guest today is a man who has worn many hats. However, I believe he's best known for all of the work he does as a real estate investor, especially with creative financing. The one and only Sub2 Drew Oquendo. Nice to have you, Drew.
Nice to be here, Don Carlo. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Nice intro, too. Love it.
We met, I think it was about maybe a year and a half ago at an event. And I immediately became a fan, at least when I got back home and I started following up on you. And so you've done a lot. You really have done a lot in a short amount of time, too. Yeah. And so one of the things that stuck out immediately was your academy, your Closer Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about the Closer Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's funny you say you've done a lot because I don't even feel like that. It's always like haven't done enough, not doing enough. But so I appreciate you saying that. But Closers Academy is where people come who are committed to learning how to be a closer, right? They're paying $500 a month for it, and the return they get is like not even 10-fold, it's 20-fold. This guy's making their money back right in the first month, but it depends on them, right? Just like anything, it always depends on the action that the people put in. But we've got guys in there getting good results, but really what we're doing, it's a mentorship. So it's all about teaching them everything and showing them everything that I do, Does
it have a specific curriculum that everyone follows, or is it more fluid than that?
I call it the curriculum of life in business because it's like I said, it's what they're action every day. They bring all their problems to the table, or all their concerns or questions to the table. It doesn't work without them because I'm going to be doing what I do. It's a true mentorship, right? Because I'm not just coaching, I'm telling them on something that I used to do or something that theoretically can work. It's things that I'm actually doing, and I'm JVing on deals with them. So on my side of the house, it helps me circumvent the need of needing to bring in an in-house lead gen team, or department, and managing all that. So I get these guys who put their money where their mouth is, because they believe in themselves. So they put their $500 down a month, and they're there ready to learn. Versus, when I've had lead gen departments, these guys were just sitting there, okay with education as a source of what do they call it? Infotainment. They're just sitting there soaking in the info, but not using it, asking hypothetical questions, but not, no intention of, actually going out and putting it to action, which is frustrating as, someone's pouring into them. It's kind of like you don't get that value exchange back.
When you mentioned mentorship, what immediately came to mind were the old gills that worked on an apprenticeship system, which maybe had a slight academic component to it, but it was primarily based upon one-to-one contact with the student. Is it more or less along those lines where the student in the academy basically is performing and in producing reports or getting back to you, and then basically you have a one-on-one, either face-to-face or more likely probably online, and then you continuously adjust fire from there.
Yeah, adjusting fire is important, but yes, it's similar to that. It's not dedicated to a one-on-one environment, but it's there if they need it because again, it's a true mentorship. So if they need some extra attention, they have access to me. Versus the countless people who hit me up on Instagram just looking to pick my brain or looking for free information. These guys, they pay to play, so they're in proximity. So if they have an issue, it can go one-on-one if they're hitting me up outside of our sessions, which we do twice a week for 2 hours each. So the idea is to consolidate those issues during those sessions that are set for that, right? So everyone else can learn off of their experience as well and their challenges. So I like the group setting because of that.
I found that in business and in life, behind every great deed, every great effort, there's some kind of a personal story. What was your inspiration? There must have been something within Drew's life, Drew's struggles, Drew's experience that inspired you to create the Closers Academy?
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned that because the Closers Academy, I ran maybe 8 iterations of it. It was actually set up as a curriculum-based thing, and I was running an acquisition company as an owner with 2 other members, and we had a real estate brokerage attached to that, or not a brokerage, but a team attached to that. So that was for free because it was pouring into our guys, so they can, in turn, get better, so they can bring back more business for the team. But since then, it was maybe about 2 years, before picking that back up. It was through the frustration of trying to run lead gen department, right? And I don't have the bandwidth for all that. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and managing people is not one of them. You take on all their energy, their negative thoughts and limiting beliefs. You take on all that, and you got to combat your own as it is. And then now you got, 5 to 10 people that you have to combat theirs instead of them just listening and just doing it. They got these limiting beliefs that prevent them from doing it, and now it's starting to eat your energy up. So that frustration. Also, it wasn't even all the way my idea, right? It was my business partner too, who's here with us, but not on scene. But Jalicia, she was kind of gave birth to that idea to bring it back up again, and because we were having issues in the business, because it's frustrating dealing with, like I said, those negative thoughts and limited beliefs. Then that pours into our personal relationship, and we got to figure out how do we get time back for ourselves. How do we maintain our energy and keep it pure and good. So through the challenges of that and adversity, gave birth to the new form, Closer Academy.
You may have seen me light up slightly when you use the word frustration, as well as my big bushy eyebrows lift a little bit, right? Because friction is what creates fire, right? Yeah. And we need to have a little bit of chaos within us, within ourselves, in order to give birth to a dancing star.
Absolutely.
And so, am I right in saying that the frustration of your earlier experiences and the I wish I had a mentor type of feeling was what led you to also to develop the academy?
Yeah, 100%. But the challenge is you rarely find people like you. Like you got to kiss a lot of, what's the saying? Kiss a lot of frogs before you find that one. Like there's a lot of people who they just don't have it. Right, they can go get it, but they don't currently possess it. Right, they take things for granted. They're just sitting on information, if they're even soaking it in at all, or if they're even showing up. I ran a lot of free events, did a lot of things for free. I remember I ran a Zoom one time for 3 people actually, giving them game, putting them on game, giving them knowledge and everything, giving them the whole playbook, the sauce and everything. By the end of that Zoom, none of them were on it. They all fell off, right? The cameras are off. They're preoccupied doing something else, right? You kind of know they're not paying attention when the first question they ask is this being recorded, right? They're doing something else. So like through that frustration as well, like seeing that just helps you, makes you feel like, man, like it's hard to find good help, it's hard to pour into people. Like, so yeah, for me, I knew having mentors coming up was the way, all right, after I, hit my head against the wall a few times. But the idea is to pour back in that, but still it's a challenge finding people who can receive that. Not everyone's open to it.
You may have unknowingly hit on the secret sauce in what you said. Because it's within you, you might not have seen it. It's so close to you that sometimes certain things we can't see, they're so close. Yeah. When you mentioned about these 2 people who showed up but didn't continue, and what I mean is this: there is no set formula to create success. A lot of it depends upon the will that we have within us. We can provide a cookbook recipe to anyone, but they have to have the will to do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get guys who thank me all the time. Like the guy, I got he was 19. He started, his name's Caden. He's 20 now, but first month he started, he quit his job. He was running, I think he was doing construction or something, but he quit. So through the things we were doing, he was able to actually quit. What did that cost him? His time, his energy, his attention, his $500. He put that down betting on himself, and he was able to escape his job. He's at the time, a 19-year-old who's taking care of his girl. He protects and provides for his girl. They live on their own. How many 30-year-olds you know that live with their mom, live with their parents or have roommates, not doing it on their own, right? Making their girlfriend go half with them on the bill, if not pay the whole thing, right? So he's a guy who has it, right? Not everybody has it, but when they do, it's a rewarding feeling, right? When you see that and you give it back, they're thanking me for these things, but it's on them. It's like I tell them all the time, it's not me, it's you. It's you. I got another guy. He's a rock star. His name's Micah. He's over in Cali, LA right now recording. He's in the program too. He thanks me all the time. He's turning into a savage. He went from a nice customer service kind of base guy, and he didn't lose himself. He's still that nice person, but now he understands and being intentional in his words and his conversation with sellers. This guy's negotiating zero down, seller finance deals, left and right, and he's thanking me for it. But I push it back on him because it's him doing the work and applying it.
I'd like to make a prediction.
Let's hear it.
The exponential growth that you're showing right now will eventually get to a point where you may have to change the tactics of the academy. And what I mean is this: we've all met people who said that, oh, you make such great cookies, you should go into the business of making cookies, right?
Yeah.
However, my wife and I have run retail businesses before. We had a chain of franchises, and it became evident very quickly that in order to scale something, things look different when you scale.
Yeah.
There's a difference between Mom's Cookies and Momco.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
And so I predict that you'll get to the point where the amount of your success will outrun the current structure of the academy, that you may have to make some kind of a huge shift in how you do this, which is a good thing.
I love that. Yeah. I love that prediction.
Which is a good thing.
I'll let you know when it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
There's a couple of trains of thoughts that pop up when you say that. I'm reading a book right now by Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. Awesome book. I actually just finished it. Might go through it again, but awesome book. Changed the game, right? And he talks about who's the ash on the table? He talks about thank you.
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell, yeah. Buy back your time. He talks about like growing and delegation, right? Because this is what we're talking about. And we all want that. He says the challenge, which we all experience, right? It's not like Mom's Cookies, like what he says. Mom's Cookies is not like a Momco, right? There's it degrades the quality a little bit, at least to Mom, right? It ain't the same. But he explains, he emphasizes 80% solution, 80% done, or 80% completion is 100% better than you doing it all by yourself, right? So once you sit right with that thought, then like I feel like that allows me to let go of the reins and get that 80% solution, so I can have a lot of different 80% solutions. Correct. And a bigger enterprise. The
only thing that I hope doesn't happen, and it won't because we're talking about it right now, is that years ago I got involved in a Tony Robbins group. And because his name was on it, I expected to see Tony Robbins. But if I read the fine print, I would have seen that his name was there, but he didn't necessarily have to be there. And of course, it was disappointing. So when you do get to that stage, you might want to. I wouldn't say might. I'd say it would be a definite plus if you could somehow arrange the structure in such a way that Drew is always there. Yeah. In the same way that Pace Morby still shows up to his own events.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because that's the other train of thought. Instead of, there's certain things like you don't want to delegate out, right? You may enjoy it, like mentoring these guys, and it's strictly for men. So it's like a men's club, gentleman's club type of thing, right? There's a lot of high accountability. There's no room for feelings and all that stuff. We got to get it done, right? So I enjoy that, right? I enjoy that time. So that may not be something I want to, water down or go for the 80% solution. I have a mentor, Wes Watson, who doesn't believe a coach.
I know Wes Watson, not personally. Yeah, from prison, right?
Yeah.
We haven't been to prison, but he's
been to jail a few times, but not prison.
Exactly.
Right? But yeah, he's the shit. He makes 2.7 a month. right? And he handles everything himself, right? He'll say himself, he's a coach. Like he will claim he's not necessarily a businessman. He's a coach, but arguably he's a businessman because he's making all that money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. His thing is you can't like farm that out or just like push that out. You got to do it yourself. You got to be involved.
Exactly.
He's on his DM. I mean, it's inspiring. It makes me think I'm not working hard enough, right? Because he's on a Zoom call answering, our Zoom calls that we're on. He's answering DMs and selling people and pitching people
so you're more involved with him.
I'm in his elite coaching program.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yep. So I get that. I get more of that hustle harder mentality to keep myself in that part of the business at least. Right now I pair Dan Martell's teaching from his book with this, and now what that tells me is that, because there's another quote that comes out of Dan Martell's book, is don't hire people to grow your business. Hire people to buy back your time. Right? First, right? Buy back your time first, right? That's the first phase, right? Because at that phase, we're trading, our hours for dollars, right? Whether you're an employee or self-employed, right? Then the next phase is you're trading your time, your money for time, getting time back. That's the phase I'm at right now. Like this phase we're at, me and my girl, we're trying to use our money to buy back our time. Cleaning ladies, like the one day a house manager, that's what Dan Martell has, to get back our time so we can do more of the things that we actually enjoy doing. And that stuff that makes money, that grows our wealth exponentially. Then the next level is the enterprise level where we're using our money to make more money, buying businesses, doing hardcore investments, bigger investments, things like that, so that's the path.
I'm glad you mentioned Wes Watson, and I'll tell you why. There are people in society who don't really stand out. They're members of the crowd who are outcasts. Outcasts because of having done a stint in prison, or perhaps being involved with a non-kosher industry. And you can interpret that any way you want to, right? Okay, I'm not implying anything. And so these individuals will be listening to our conversation, and they will draw inspiration from that because they know that it's not the end.
It's not over.
It's a phoenix arising from the ashes. Right.
100%. I believe that. Even before me and Wes Watson, I always believed that, right? There's nothing that'll stop you if you want it bad enough, right? For instance, credit. Everyone harps on credit. My credit is shot, right? There's a story behind that, but I don't have credit. So what do? I get better at creative financing. I leverage other people's credit. I get better at negotiating opportunities with other people. There's a way to get it done.
That is an irony, isn't it? In that those who really need money can't get money, and those who don't need money get money
all the time.
And that those who generally are entrepreneurs have very shoddy credit, and that those who have that standard individual from a square-shaped state in the middle of the country who wears a white shirt, black pants, bad haircut, and drives a Volvo, right? Has fantastic credit, but and maybe works at the IRS. Has fantastic credit, but they don't look much. They don't look much beyond a middle income lifestyle.
They're stuck in the matrix,
right? But they have good credit.
They got great credit.
They have great credit.
What they do, right?
But the so what of that is so what, right?
For instance, again, another perfect. Same example, Wes Watson. He buys all his cars cash because he got it. He's making massive amount of money. He mentioned something. He's not able to get financing. He wasn't able to rent certain places out there in Miami where he's at now. So he had to go. He pays like $90,000 a month for his rent. You got $90,000 a month to pay for where you live. Who cares about credit at that point?
I'm glad you mentioned financing, and a moment ago you touched on wholesaling, which I know is an integral part of your business strategy.
Yes.
When many of us go on social media or on YouTube, we hear people talking about wholesaling, but I find in very few instances does anyone really break it down to say what it really is. Bring it down to a 6th grade level so we can understand what it really is. Because honestly, when most people listen to it, they're thinking, what's the catch? Where's the hook? What are they not talking about? So I think we can compound this question. What is wholesaling and how do you use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So wholesaling for us, right? Me and my girl, we just actually this year got heavy into wholesaling because the liquidity requirement we have, the need we have for liquidity right now, because last year we spent buying up a bunch of properties through creative financing. You can rack that up, those properties up real quick through creative financing. But as soon as some things start breaking, you realize, forget creative, you need some money to put back into the properties, right? So we're dealing with all that now. So that's what got us into wholesaling heavy, right? And what is wholesaling? It's comes in many different shapes and sizes and forms, but on the basic level, it's just walking the walk like you got it, whether you do or you don't, right? Because you got to be able to talk the talk. So you get the walk needs to follow, right? And you negotiate a deal, right? A deal can be many different things. If it's creative, we're probably talking in terms of cash flow, right? If it's a standard wholesale cash deal, we need some of that equity, right? Someone has $100,000 of equity. We need to carve out, let's say $50,000, for example, of that, so we can make a fee on it when we sell that contract. So we'll lock it up, meaning get it signed, get an agreement signed by us as buyers, right? And the seller as a seller, right? The homeowner as the seller will lock that up, get it signed contractually, and then we'll take that contract, market it out, and look for someone who wants this opportunity more than us, right? Someone who's willing, if we got it at 50K, they're willing to take it at 60K or 70K, right? Because they see more potential in it. Wholesaling happens on everywhere in business, retail, Walmart, they're selling things at wholesale price. They're getting it cheaper from their suppliers, and they're putting it out for consumers. That's what we're doing. It's the same thing.
Often, all the time, actually, when we meet people, unbeknownst to us, they're running an interior dialogue on us, sizing us up.
Yeah, all the time.
I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, someone tells you that they're a chiropractor, right? And unless you've worked with chiropractors before or been a patient of a chiropractor, it's not uncommon for someone to think, is this guy a real doctor, or is he someone who just couldn't get into medical school and didn't want to go to Guadalajara, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's similar misconceptions about wholesaling, where they'll say, this guy just didn't want to go to real estate school, didn't want to pass a license, and he's basically being a real estate agent without being licensed, and therefore I'm at some kind of a risk dealing with this guy.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because that highlights the stupidity of real estate agents, right? There's a lot of stupid agents, I should say ignorant agents, right? They're ignorant, not to slander them. They're ignorant because of lack of knowledge, right? And all the fear that comes with that, right? When you go to, and I'm licensed also, right? So when you go to,
you're licensed as a real estate agent.
I'm licensed as well, yeah. I started as a fix and flipper, but I moved markets, got my license to get ahead of a different market. So when you go to the real estate school or you get that education, it's not. That education doesn't teach you how to sell real estate, right? It teaches you the basics of different types of transactions. It teaches you laws, most importantly, how not to get in trouble. But people blur the line between laws and ethics, right? There's, being a realtor has largely to do with ethics, right? Not legal matters, right? They kind of hide behind. First of all, they don't understand the difference, right? Which is a problem. But the bigger problem is that they hide their lack of knowledge and their fear behind what the Association of Board of Realtors calls ethics, right? It's not about ethics, right? This is why most realtors are broke. It's not about ethics. It's about doing what's best for you and your family. Like, shut up with all this, fiduciary duty BS, right? You're not acting just because you're setting a value on your time, and it requires more money than the next idiot is willing to charge, doesn't mean you're doing something that's not ethical, right? And that's the problem with most realtors. When I was running a real estate listing team, right, we were getting 7% listings, 8% listings. The highest listing we got was 15% before we started doing net listings, which no one in the state will touch. Florida. No one will touch, right? There's a lot of people who think it's illegal, right? They forget that they went through the realtor school, and I guarantee their instructors, this is what they said in my class. Net listings is this, and that. They just read it from the book, no experience on it, but read it from the book and then said, yeah, but I wouldn't mess with that, right? It gets muddy. What's muddy about it, right? It's because they don't understand their value and they don't understand tactful transparency, right? And what a net listing is, it allows you to make a bigger chunk of the pie, right? If you're providing a service for someone, you get in life, you get what you negotiate, right? So there's a lot of realtors who won't touch net listings, but net listings are perfect for the guy who's like, no, I don't want to pay a commission. You don't want to pay a commission? Okay, well, what if I just guarantee you this amount, all right? And then I make or lose whatever is on top, right? Mm-hmm. So if I make $1 million, are you going to be upset? Right? Or if I make nothing, all right, if I lose $500 for these photos, are you going to be upset? Obviously not, right? So you're able to make way more in a commission than you would if you would just go for this 2%, 3%, whatever you're trying to charge. But they don't understand how to have those conversations, so they hide behind ethics and legalities and this and that. They hide behind a facade, right? So that's why realtors are broke. If they would just break out of that mold, right? They're stuck in a box called the Matrix, and it happens to have their license on the outside of it. They're stuck in that. But if they break free from that, they would venture into the world of wholesaling. There's opportunity for you. You don't need a license to be a principal in a transaction, meaning you're a buyer in a transaction. You're moving as a buyer in a transaction. The lawyers that I've discussed with and talked with about contract law. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm adding that in there, that I've talked with lawyers about it. Contract law states that a contract's inherently assignable unless otherwise stated. Right? Not to mention on the FAR contract for realtors, it says here in Florida, it has options, 3 options: assignable, not assignable, or assignable without giving up responsibility, right? And what's wrong with just not giving up responsibility and checking assignable? The deal's going to get done, So there's ways to do this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just what's stuck in people's mind.
Why don't you take us through a typical wholesale deal, whether it be a pretend wholesale deal or something that you actually have done?
Yeah, typical. Typical is tricky because there is no, in real estate, nothing's typical. Anything can happen. But since we were just talking about agents, I'll take you through one that I did not as an agent, but with an agent who couldn't sell the property, because that's a lot of what's happening right now. Interest rates are high. The market's doing what the market's doing.
Agent just said, I can't sell. I give up.
I can't.
Can you take it from me and give me a piece? Something like that.
I wished it was that easy. I wish they said that. Yeah. Honestly, they would make more money if they did say that, but they don't usually. What happens typically is you have to go in there, call the agent, whether it just expired or it's on market for high days, or you just happen to come across this agent, right? But you hit up the agent, they have a property, right? You speak to the agents. I'm licensed. I can speak to the agent for 2 different ways. I can speak to them as I'm an agent and I'm representing a buyer, or I can speak to them as I'm an agent. I am the buyer, right? So in this case, this was a property in DeLand, right? There's an agent on the deal, actually 2 agents. She has a co-listing agent. They could not sell this property for anything, right? Nice looking property.
Was it because of bad credit? The price was too high?
It's always the price too high, right? That's what I coached with Mike Ferry for a year and a half. His thing
Mike
is
Ferry, okay.
Mike Ferry, yeah.
You could continually surprise me.
You gotta have the coaches, the coaches and mentors.
Yeah, all right.
But it's his.
I'll never forget 123 Banana Street.
Yeah, always. It's never. Or the only issue is the price, right? It's not your marketing. It's not the bells and whistles. It's the price, right? Because that's. And we're not talking luxury real estate, right? They make up prices at that point. We're not talking $1 million plus. I'm talking about just the regular.
Overpriced for the value.
Yeah, I'm talking about something being overpriced for the value at the normal people range. In our market, maybe 500 or 600 and below, right? But they, if it's not moving, it's because of the price. No one sees the value. The buyers aren't seeing that house to be that value, right? So they're not going to pay that price, right? You get in the right range, you drop that thing until it's in the right range, it will sell. There's nothing more powerful than the MLS for exposure. Right?
I'm glad you bring that up, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
There's a misconception, and it's and it's also the fault of wholesalers online, is that the only examples they give is of some desperate individual, usually a senior citizen, who is about to lose their house, and then some opportunist shows up at their door, and you know what I'm talking about, and says, I will wholesale for you. Right.
Yeah. If they only said, I will wholesale for you.
They're
typically, saying it a different way, but that's transparency, right? And in that scenario, not so bad because, a lot of times the agents, a couple things happen, right? And I know we're bouncing all over the place on this because it's so dynamic, right? The topic. But there's a couple things that happen. Either the seller doesn't, but they have a limited belief, right? We're controlled by all our limited beliefs. The seller has a limited belief that they cannot sell on the market for whatever reason. I'm not necessarily going to fight them on that, right? Because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I'm not going to waste time fighting against that. I'm just going to go with their momentum and take them to where I could get them to where they need to be, and I can also make some money on that to provide for my lifestyle and family, right? Now, the other train of thought is the agent will come to them and say, oh, this is not going to sell on the market. That's the agent's limited belief. Everything sells on the market. Everyone's watching the MLS and the sites that it syndicates to. So if they're looking for properties, there's people on there, different strokes for different folks. There's people looking for fixer-uppers, right? There's people looking for, retail ready and everything in between. So put it on the market and price it appropriately. Now, there's times where there's no equity in the property, right? Like, for instance, this deal I'll go back to the deal in the land, an agent, right? She couldn't sell it. There was two female listing agents on it. They couldn't sell it, right? I called them, or one of them, talk with them. Hey, would your seller be open? If I gave them full price or, close to full price, full asking, would they be open to selling on terms? Right. It's always the question, what's terms? Right. So this now goes into wholesaling creatively, right?
Correct. Something that the real estate agent couldn't do.
Way out of their wheelhouse. Right. Anyone can drop the price down and sell it. It's a good strategy. We prefer that strategy, but sometimes there's a medium stop loss like there in place, right? Called the mortgage. So there was only but so much he can go below. It was like around a mid 200 price point, but he could not drop that house anymore and still go on to where he needed to go. I want to say, I know he got something. I want to say he got 10K. We worked out to where he got 10K or something like that. Or maybe he got nothing on that deal, maybe a few thousand, but it was a pre-foreclosure situation.
Okay.
Right? Actually, if he missed one more payment, it would go in pre-foreclosure. Right? So now time and circumstances makes this guy more motivated to do something with a guy like me. Right? So what I ended up doing is I structured the deal with them, which was basically pay out $6,000 to the agents. He got $3,000 or something like that, or $4,000. So it was 10 total. I ended up making $30,000 on that deal, wholesaling it to somebody. Right, I made more than both of those agents combined. They had to split $6,000. Right, seller got $3,000, but seller also got his arrears paid back, and he also was able to close that chapter in life and move on. Right. I worked out paying those monies to the respective people, and then also leaving the mortgage in place, right? Leaving the mortgage in place with that seller's name on it, and then wholesaling that deal to a person who wanted to turn that property into pad split, right? Because it didn't necessarily, it wasn't screaming great cash flow for a landlord, right? But the entry was low for him, right? And pad split allows, which is renting by the room, allows him to put a couple extra bedrooms in there. And I want to say he had 6 or 7 bedrooms, in the projection of the gross rent was about $5,600 a month, and the mortgage on that about $2,500. There's a big spread in there. You force appreciation. You create a big spread in there for cash flow. Seeing that opportunity is what the wholesaler does, right? And being able to articulate that on paper and verbally when you're pitching this deal to someone is a skill, right? It takes work. There's work that goes into that. It doesn't just happen.
So the real estate agent is dealing with a limited playbook.
Very limited playbook.
Where you come in like Woody Hayes or Bear Bryant, or John Wooden, and you say, why are we? You
want to make money or not?
Why are we doing this play? There's a better way to do it.
Exactly.
Right. You don't always have to run up the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Do a sweep, right, or throw it long, something, right? So, work that deal out. I walked away with $30K. great day for me and my family, right? The agents were happy. They got a sell, right? They got the total volume count for their records, you know, in MLS. They split 3,000. So they made some money. They brought some money back to their family. But hey, the amount of money you can make, hey, you're limited to your own knowledge, you know, that's on you, right? You can take time to learn, or you can keep doing that. Go bring me more of those, and you can make $3,000 many times over, right? Sometimes there's more money for the agent on the deal, but that's just one, you know, they're not all the same, but that's one style of a wholesale deal. And that's all it was, negotiating that contract with the seller and then being able to perform on that. Now, if that buyer didn't sell that deal or wasn't able to buy that deal for me, right? If I didn't have the network to push that deal to him, then what, right? I would have to put my own money into the deal, right? Buy the deal myself. It's a low entry, right? So I could have bought it myself. I could have raised the money for it and bought it, or I could have simply gave it back and said, hey, I can't do anything with this. What's wrong with that? It happens all the time. People fall in and out of contract all the time, right? Yeah. So it's a perfectly okay game to play, right? It's very little risk if you play it right.
I wouldn't be surprised if at a certain point, real estate agents would come to the realization that on hard to sell properties, maybe they should start reaching out to you, rather than vice versa. You know, it might take a little while for them to realize it. Perhaps it's already happening. Yeah. In order to have a competitive advantage, that it would be to their best interests.
We can all work together and go further, right? They just have to see that as an opportunity. They have to open their field of view, right? Yeah. Change their perspective on it. Everyone's making money at the end of the day.
Yeah, right? I suppose everyone who's been involved in real estate in some form or another has read Robert Kiyosaki's famous book, Rich Dad,
that's
Poor
what got
Dad.
me started. Yeah.
Right. And it's a great book. It's a great starter book. Yeah. The underlying basis of his book, the underlying assumption, is the buy and hold strategy. And I know that buy and hold plays a part of your strategy as well, too. Performs as a part of your strategy. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Buy and hold is what we all see as getting out of the rat race, right? Being able to, when you buy, let's talk about the benefits of buy and hold, right? There's 5 benefits on the basic level. There's more for other reasons, but there's 5 basic benefits, right? Cash flow, right? Appreciation, depreciation, which helps you keep more of your money, right? There's debt pay down, right? And then there's the ability to leverage, right? Those are the 5 reasons. So you buy, that's why you want to buy real estate, buy and hold, right? So that's the ultimate goal. It's not necessarily the end all be all, but that is the ultimate goal, at least for evolution in your business and your career, your lifestyle. That gets you out of the rat race, because if you can have $100,000 plus, you know, coming in monthly recurring, when you wake up, that's a great feeling, right? There's a lot more you can do. You can contribute more to the people you love, their lives, and help people around you, right? So that's the goal. So buy and hold is our ultimate goal. How we get there has changed a little bit though. Last year, 2023, we spent a lot of time, you know, we got to buy and hold. We got to hold this. We got to hold this. So we didn't do a lot of wholesaling last year. We kept everything. And, you know, that we ran that tally up to about 5 million in assets, right? And properties that we own. And with that came a lot of problems, right? That we didn't have the liquidity to handle, right? So we were very asset rich, so to say, but cash
it's
flow
very
poor.
Typical.
Yeah.
It was buy and hold, very typical.
Because Christmas time came around and it was like, I don't want to go anywhere, you know, it was the last quarter of the year before, you know, we had to, you know, basically reevaluate things. And January 2024 comes around, that month we cracked 100K, you know, 6-figure month, right? And we've been doing it consecutively since then, right?
Now with the buy and hold, my experience has been that after reading Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about, in terms of financing, the use of debt financing, but he never gets specific. Yeah. And that's where the real secret sauce is how do you finance the damn thing? Because most people, I would assume that's their biggest hurdle, is how to finance. Yeah. So everyone knows how to go to a bank, go to a bank and ask for a loan or use traditional methods. Yeah. Do you use non-traditional methods to buy buy and hold properties?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, credit's not that great. My girl's credit's great. My partner, hers is great. But we've done well, for lack of a better term, mastering the art of creative financing. So all of the portfolio we own now, it's all bought on creative financing, and it's all bought with other people's money, right? So we've got private lenders in those deals.
Such that you actually own the property. Rather than perform the role of a wholesaler to right.
Which is not bad either, right? It's just you got to understand where to make the transition, because liquidity is important too. Earned income is very important. It gets overlooked. I learned that from Wes Watson. Earned income gets overlooked all the time, but earned income is what helps you enjoy your life right now.
Correct.
Right? You don't have to.
Cash flow.
Yeah. Like, so let's say you have a deal, a regular long-term rental deal. You're making, let's not even get fancy with, the reserves that people never really count, but they say they count for, right? Those reserves, right? Let's say you have that, aside, right? $500 in cash flow you're making. That's not a bad deal, right? For a long-term rental, it's pretty solid, right? You could do a wholesale deal and make all that cash flow. You can make 1 to 2 years worth of cash flow in one hit on one deal. That means, you know how much opportunity comes from that versus getting $500 a month, and waiting. I have a new train of thought after dealing with what we dealt with last year, with the evictions, with the issues with the property, the septic tanks going out, the well going out, like well waters for the properties that we have with wells. I learned a lot from that. So I see the value in earned income. So if I can make 2 years or even 1 year worth of cash flow and do that 10 times over in a month, 5 times over even in a month, I have so much opportunity from that. Shoot, one of the opportunities, I can still buy a property. I can buy one property a quarter, on creative terms, and keep a large portion of the cash flow. I can use that cash flow, and I can start making a personal brand. I can start hiring a photographer to roll around with us, right? I can't do that with $500 a month from a rental property, and I really can't run, and this may be a limiting belief, right? Because with a team you can do a lot, but there's no team there, right? To stack, multiple properties, 10 properties that you own a month, right? Each month over, month in, month out, every month, and then use that cash flow as real cash. I need to stack up reserves for when that septic goes out, when that tenant stops paying. Last year we had 2 tenants that owe us $4,000, from not paying rents, right?
That's another problem. It's legal, and it's even worse. Depending upon with certain states that you might be. California, New Jersey, New York.
About it. Yeah, the non landlord friendly states. Yeah, forget about it. Yeah. So it's just perspective.
Yeah. When my wife and I we started in residential real estate, and the internet was still a baby at that time. Internet hadn't even had sex yet, right? One of the problems we had, so we listened to our elders, right? And we found out in retrospect that a lot of what they told us was, quite frankly, bullshit, right? Or excuse me, I shouldn't use that language. I should say it was patently ridiculous, right?
Either one's fine.
So, but some of the problems were this. You take a loan to buy a home, let's say, to use as residential real estate. Now you have one loan per one home, and that home is either 100% rented or it's zero. Yeah. And we'll get to pad splitting in a minute, because that's another thing that you do that would have had we known about it at the time, helped. Another problem is the wear and tear, and then another problem is if you take a second on it, as many of these gurus suggest, that affects the overall calculation as well too. Yeah, your cash flow covering debt service. They never talk about that. And then it's hard to scale that way. Yeah. Number 4 and number 5, if you get a property management to take care of it, a lot of them aren't really that good either.
They're not that good.
They pick up the check and that's about it.
And if they don't add their little fee on the check, I noticed that too, that property management companies will bake in a little bit of extra on a net 30 thing they call net 30. They'll go, get your quote and everything, and they'll attach a couple, a percentage to it,
Do you have those issues too, or have you found a way to crack the code?
I've had those issues. We manage the only thing, we manage our own. We had a field manager last year, which helped us grow the portfolio.
So you self-manage, but you have somebody who works for you under your supervision.
And then we had a period of time where we had to let them go. And then we now we literally just hired another one now, so we'll see how that one goes. So,
in terms of your overall portfolio, would you say that buy and hold would maybe be 50%, 30%, 20%?
Oh, it's all buy and hold.
It's all buy and hold.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
so
just
everything else is to create the cash flow, the income that eventually flows into the buy and hold.
Yeah, the portfolio that I speak of, it's all buy and hold properties. That's why, that's just what we lump that in and call that the portfolio.
But
that's not the only.
generational.
Yeah, that's not the only business. We have, or I guess I shouldn't say, there is a fix and flip in there that's sitting there right now that needs to sell, but we turned that into a lease option. So we're getting, funny enough, $9,000 a month for that one. But it's a bigger property, so that is included into there. So I guess, but it meant it was a fix and flip. So so that's a good question. But yeah, predominantly they're all buy and hold, and the majority of them are pad split.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned pad split. That's a great transition to the next topic. When myself and the Prime Minister, my wife, started out on our success journey, no one ever heard about pad splitting. I'm sure that people were doing it, but it wasn't common knowledge. Yeah. And you have it on your platforms in such a way that it forms part of what you teach. It forms part of your strategy, and you make money from it. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the catch line with pad split is it's the way single family, it's basically turning single family homes or getting multifamily returns from single family homes. Right? That's their tagline, but which is true. And for us, like our tagline with it is that it's the way, one of the only ways the average guy can get out of the rat race.
Do you need to own the home?
I mean, preferably yes, but you could sublease it. You could do an arbitrage model. But remember the 5 benefits of real estate, of owning. If we really want to grow exponentially and not just make the cash, we want to own it. So that is the first option. If not, doing like an arbitrage method to where you can sublease is not bad as well. But remember, when you're doing pad split, you don't have to. So pad split, in the simplest form, is just renting by the rooms, and that was probably happening back when you were talking about the time period you're talking about. The challenge is, who wants to manage 4 to 7 different, people and collect rent? I know a lot of, from what I heard, a lot of the old timers, like maybe they'll have one person designated to collect all the rent and have one single point of contact, especially in college towns when they're doing like the dormitory setup. But I don't want to deal with that. The thing I like about pad split is they make it convenient. They have their platform. They do all the screening for the tenant. You still have to handle maintenance requests and things like that, but you can put an easy system in place for that, or put a person like our field manager, for that.
Especially, I would say, maybe around universities.
Yeah. Now, around universities, yes, I see that all day, even though that they're, contrary to popular belief, their target market isn't really the students. It would be more so the workers at the.
Okay, I never thought of that. Yeah,
they're looking for they're not looking for the party animal. They're not looking for anybody who. That's one of the things. You're turning a living room into profitable space. So you're getting rid of the common areas, right? Maybe keeping a little kitchenette area where they can sit down and eat. The idea is for them to go work, come home, work from home if you want to, or whatever. You have a nice workstation in your room, eat, shower, and then go do it again, rinse and repeat.
So we have a few spinning Chinese plates here. One is that, Drew, I'm interested in learning about real estate, but I need someone to help me. That's the academy.
Yep.
The other one is that, Drew, I have no money. I'd like to learn something about real estate without spending my own money. Yep. They're calling for wholesaling knowledge. Yep. And we have another spinning Chinese plate, which is, Drew, I'm not interested in learning about real estate, but I'm interested in finding a place to live, and I don't have the money to pay. I'm a student, or I work at a university, and I don't have the money to pay the combined expenses of a traditional what an apartment requires, including the security deposit and everything else. And I'm amenable to pad splitting Do you have a property, or do you know of someone that might be able to accommodate me?
Yeah.
So you have multiple things going on here.
Yeah, and then also to add to that, so that last one, I would actually just kick them to pad split because I don't want to deal with with that. It's more so go shop on pad split, to keep the integrity of the system and the platform. I don't really, because it circumvents them, like if I wanted to rent by the room myself and deal with the person, and their qualifications for renting, then I wouldn't need pad split or want them involved. So not that one, but the other spinning plate would be other wholesalers who have deals that they either need to three things, right? So these can be three more spinning plates. They either need to the seller to be closed on creative financing because their cash deal doesn't work and they want to make some money on it, or they locked it up and they can't find a buyer for it. I can help them with that. Or they want to, I guess that's two, just the two. Yeah. Or actually another plate would be someone who has money. They don't want to necessarily be in real estate, but they want their money to be in real estate. So I can help deploy their money into real estate on some of our deals. I have a guy who we have a partnership on a deal right now that we're putting up a pad split, and he brought money to the table for that to get a spot.
We've all heard the expression that behind every successful man, there's a woman, right?
True.
And for me, for example, my wife, I call her the Prime Minister. She's perhaps the only person in this entire world, well, except for my children, right?
Yeah.
But just to be practical in terms of speaking business-wise, she's the only person that I can really trust 100%. Her word for me is like a biblical verse, right? Yeah. You're a very, very intelligent, smart, driven individual. And Thanks. So I only have to assume that there's somebody in the shadows standing behind you as well that drives you.
Not even in the shadows. She's right over there. But
that was a hook, by the way. I wanted to see if you would say not even in the shadows, and you got it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. She's I call her. She's my oracle.
Your oracle.
Yep. AKA
it's
High
absolutely
Priestess.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I work hard on this look, so yes, thanks. No. But yeah, she's beautiful. So yeah, she's a business partner, and she's right there next to me. Not even behind me. So 100%.
It's very important because it's well, the outside of we've seen pillars of ancient buildings, the Parthenon in Athens, Roman buildings. The outside is very smooth of the pillars, but the inside is very, very hard.
Yeah.
Right, in order to sustain the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so your pillar is your partner.
Absolutely.
What's her name?
Jalicia.
All right. We'll have to speak with her sometime in the future as well.
100%. Yeah.
Drew, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do it? If they're interested in the academy, if they're interested in wholesaling, if they're interested in buy and hold, alternative strategies, pad splitting, or just reaching out to you.
Yeah, 100%. The absolute best way, unless they already have my cell phone number, is to go to IG, Instagram. Sub2Drew is the handle, but it's number 2, right? Sub2, the actual number, Drew. There's 2 of us out there. The other one's my friend. He's over in Houston though. But Sub2Drew, and they can catch me there.
Yeah. If anybody would be interested in starting their real estate journey like you did, what kind of advice do you think you would give them?
The advice, it's a good question. That I hear a lot. It changes.
Or I'll put it to you this way: if the Drew could speak to the young Drew, right?
Yeah, I would do the same thing I did.
Exactly.
I jumped right into it. Literally,
just do it.
I'm a big implementer. So once I watched that Robert Kiyosaki clip. We didn't talk about it, but you mentioned his name. I watched a clip on YouTube. He was on an Oprah show. That sparked the interest. Then I got his book. That was the first book I ever actually read. Well, I think I listened to it Audible, but the first book that's what got me into Audible. But I listened to it and implemented everything right away. Obviously, it doesn't get into specifics about it, but it talked about, doing real estate, and then wholesaling is what popped up, right? And that led to fix and flip, and that's what got me started. So implementation, like, you got to just do it, right? That's the only way you're gonna make it happen. You can't what if anything to death, right? You got to do it and deal with today's problem right now and today. Deal with right now's problem, right? Not tomorrow's problem. That's what stops a lot of people. They're trying to deal with tomorrow's problem. That shit doesn't even exist, right? So my advice is just do it. Just get into it and do it and mess up and be okay with that, and you'll find somebody for help.
Successful people oftentimes have to change either all at once or over time the crowd that they're in.
Oh, yeah.
And not only that, but sometimes those around you are somewhat resentful or just don't fit anymore.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult and it can be problematic. Have you had that experience as well too?
No, because my mindset is fuck them. You know, I got a hardcore mindset about it. Nothing's holding me back. Not family, not blood, not friends. I don't give a shit. If they're not on it, like me, I don't care. I'm not going to pick up the phone. I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Leave the weak by the roadside and keep going.
Leave them. That's where they belong.
Right.
You know, if they want to follow, they want to come, let's go. But I can go back. It's a crab in the bucket. It's avoiding the crab in the bucket.
Crab in the bucket.
Yeah.
You mind if I plagiarize that?
Yeah. Well, I got plagiarized it. So yeah, feel free. But the crab's in the bucket. They're going to pull you down. That's most of the time that's family.
Yeah.
Pulling you down. People have this stupid attachment to family. Everyone's your family, especially if you all come from one source, right? Everyone's family. So I rather my vibe attract my tribe and roll with that. I'm not going to forget my family. Right? But I got to go make it. I can't make it with them pulling me down back into the bucket. So I got to get out of this damn bucket. I got to go find out how to build the ladder and then throw the ladder back down the bucket and help them crawl up. Not even help them crawl up. Let them crawl up.
It's like the great Dan Pena one says,
that's
show
my
me your
guy
friends.
right
You follow him too.
Hell yeah.
Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, before we close today, Drew, anything else perhaps that we didn't cover that you'd like to perhaps bring up?
I think we did a good job covering a lot. I mean, it's so much.
I think we did. Yeah,
so much.
I think we're pretty much hitting all 12 cylinders.
100%. We just when you mentioned that shadow, that's not really a shadow. My other half. That's the only thing that we didn't necessarily cover in depth, and maybe that's another episode.
God willing. God willing.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Right.
Well, Drew, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
Likewise.
I hope that we see each other more often. You're very busy, and I understand that, but we'll need to make some time.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.
It's important.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of All Business No Bull, the great Sub2Drew. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and send us your comments. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Appreciate it.